Hey, welcome to Roaming Minds. I'm Carlos.
I'm AJ, and here we talk about the thoughts that kept us out of all the really good schools. You know, those quiet spirals, the questions that keep you up at night, and the trials and tribulations that we all face as human beings.
This show is part reflection, part reminder. We're not broken, we're on a journey of growth. Please note that this conversation should not be taken as medical or professional advice. See the link in the description below if you require immediate help.
Every week, we unpack what it means to choose joy. Not the loud version that Karen is peddling, but the quiet, hard-earned kind that comes from finally feeling like yourself again.
Let's keep this conversation going. Join us on Discord or connect to a peer through Kindred. Let's get into it.
I was watching our video, because that's what I do, is I watch all of our videos every week. And what I did notice was that this idea of space came up. And I don't think I realized it at the time, but as I stepped away, I started to think about people are going to think that we're talking about safe spaces and some crazy liberal agenda. And so I want to do more of a deep dive into what we mean by spaces and what it means to have a safe space and why that is important. Well, we've kind of talked about why that is important. So I'm less concerned with why it's important, but that'll be weaved in throughout the whole thing. But I really want to define those kinds of things because I think that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, recently we've been sold a bill of goods on safe spaces that is not what I'm talking about, and B is not, I don't think it's conducive to living in harmony with the world and those around us, and that mode of seeking safe spaces is actually causing worse spaces. Maybe not worse, but more toxic environments, if that makes sense. And like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you agree, just because this is the first time we've talked about it.
The statement makes sense. I don't know if I fully 120% agree with the statement itself.
That's fine. Which part? Just so that I can be keen and aware and tell you that you're wrong. No, I just...
Right hook,
yeah,
right back
exactly.
I think the main part that I disagree with is, sorry, repeat the statement again. So I am putting out the specific thing, and I'm not projecting or doing anything. So repeat the statement again.
Okay, so that liberal idea of safe space is not what I'm talking about, number one. And B, actually ends up causing more toxic environments than we are normally. It undermines what they're actually trying to do by creating those more toxic environments.
Okay, so I don't think I see where you're going. I see why you say that, but I don't think it specifically undermines the idea of safe space. I don't think undermine the idea of safe space. I don't, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's not the terminology that I have a problem with. It's the manner in which we have sought out to create those spaces that I have a problem with. The terminology is what it is. It's a very direct term. There's no, I guess, sure, there's room for misinterpretation. In my mind, you tell me a safe space, I get that. That makes sense. Safe emotionally, physically, mentally. That's what you're seeking. That's what you're looking for. But by sitting there and yelling and screaming and yelling and saying, you have to create a safe space for me and blah, blah, that undermines the actual creation of a safe space and actually ends up turning it far more toxic than it should be.
Okay. I see.
Those are the premises that I'm working with because, I'm going to break it down even further because a space, you have to know what I mean when I say space. We have multiple different versions of space. Okay. There's outer space. I'm not, I, yes, that is a thing and that is encompassed in our terminology, but I'm not concerned with outer space. We're not talking about aliens. We're not talking about none of that shit. There is head space and mental space and where you're at mentally. There is your physical space around you. And there is digital spaces because we, especially digitally, we visit more digital spaces on a day-to-day basis than we do physical spaces. Even if you travel a lot and even if you're on vacation and going out, chances are you still, on a day where you are using digital tools, will visit more digital spaces than you will physical spaces. There's just only so much time in the day that you can physically move from one place to another. However, I can go to hundreds of different digital spaces in the span of however long because it's super easy to just type in a web address and boom, there I am in a different digital space. What goes on and what you view inside of there is a space, and it directly affects your cognitive well-being. It's this isn't a maybe. This is a guarantee. Have you ever used a shitty website before? Nah, let me rephrase that. I don't want to say shitty. A user unfriendly website before? That's the nicest way that I can put it.
I have used a shitty website before.
Okay. And what was that experience like?
Terrible. Again, a bad experience.
But what happened during those things? Like, yes, I agree that it's a bad experience, but why? What makes it bad?
Well, the thing, whatever goal I was trying to achieve on said website wasn't working, whether it was either the website itself or the internet connection or somewhere in between. I became rather frustrated. If like it needed something that I needed to be done right, my stress was elevated because I was trying to pay a toll or a bill or something like that, and it just wasn't working. I'm like, I need to pay this. I allowed myself like the next following 10 minutes to do this easy task, but then it's becoming more rather complicated than it needed to be.
Government websites are notorious for that stuff. There's a valid reason why. So typically, things that are highly user unfriendly tend to be far more secure. Okay. Usually, when you have to jump through more hoops like that, it's because they're actually ensuring your digital footprint, who you are, and making sure that people aren't trying to steal identity. So there is there's a trade-off there, and you see it a lot with government websites just because they have to be more secure. But if you're not talking about government, where you're not trying to pay a bill, but where you're just trying to get a piece of information, but I have to click through 6 or 7 different things, and a lot of websites have gotten much better at this, but not all of them have. I know when I was in grad school and they asked me to go out and evaluate a website for usability, and I was using this website and I would click on one area of the website and it would take me to the place that I'm looking for, and it would be information about pricing and all of this stuff. But then I couldn't get back to where I was from before because it was a web app and each different part of the website was its own app. It was a nightmare, man. It was confusing. It was frustrating because I couldn't get to where I wanted to get to. And this is why it's okay. I don't need to go down that road. I don't, but this is, I mean, that's how it affects me cognitively. And then those cognitive frustrations then give us physical irritations because I'm stressed out. So my blood pressure just went up at least a little bit. My breathing is probably a little bit more shallow because I'm like, what's going on? If it's something that I have to do and it is that much more frustrating, the deeper invested I am and the more internal issues I'm going to experience because of this cognitive unpleasantness. And so it's a big deal how these spaces are set up. And like I said, I understand the need for safety, but but there are things that we can do to mitigate that safety. We did that with our website because we have some safety issues that we have to go through. But I started off with explaining exactly why we did it and what the purpose of it's for. It's not because we just want you to watch 10 minutes of videos and sit there and show ID and this, that. We just want to make this a safe platform for all involved.
Hmm.
We have to make sure that you're a human. We have to make sure that you're not underage. We have to make sure that you're not whatever, some weird sex pedophile. My bad. I, I,
Indeed.
I
Yes.
mean, but like these are very real issues.
Yes.
And so, and then that comes back to those safe spaces. Because if we've got a bunch of pedos looking for underage people on our platform, that's not a safe place. That's a very toxic and dangerous one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
You don't want to become a breathing ground for, any kind of like bad activity,
bullying, harassment,
any
any
kind
of
of
that.
bad, like procuring or recruiting people for God knows what.
Right. And so one of the things, and this, I'm going to kind of tie all of this back to the creation of those safe spaces and how that actually undermines throughout as we go. I don't want to, because I feel if we get into that right now, it's then this conversation takes a very different turn. But hopefully that's going to be what we are able to see by the end of this conversation. And so there's a big advantage to living inside of safe places that have access to nature, because access to nature is very, very important. I'll be the first one to tell you that I love the city, but I need a place that is green to go to, and I need trees and whatever. I was walking through DuPont Circle on Wednesday, man, and there's this. It was such a cool use of space. This red brick house, and it was a deeper. It wasn't. It was painted red, so
Mhm.
it wasn't like red brick. It was a little bit deeper, but it matched and was in perfect harmony with the Japanese maple tree that was out front. That was, oh, dude, it was gorgeous. It made me so happy. I was like, man, that level and attention to detail is just so cool, and genuinely like gave me like a good sense of being while I'm walking down the street. This kind of environment is important for all people. If I go to a neighborhood where there's trash everywhere and where there's fucking loud noises coming from all over the place, I again, my senses are being assaulted at that point because there's
Yeah.
so much going on that I'm being forced to respond to. And it goes back to what we were talking about the other week about living in that constant mode of anxiety. And we really haven't focused a lot on this stuff and designing these spaces like that, at least in America recently. I know around us, the dominant idea over designing spaces that are going up in around us are micro communities. And that's cool. That's all well and dandy to have micro communities that you go to. But there's no green, there's no plants, there's no nothing. It's just shops and commercialized stuff that get overcrowded and hectic. I won't go anywhere near the one place on the weekends because you can't get in. You can't drive, you can't get to the fucking parking lot because the parking lot, this is how stupid it was. They designed that shit. They put the parking lot in the middle of the community. So you have to drive down the roads to get there. There's one road in and there's one road out.
Yeah.
If there's been ambulances in there, shit like that. Oh my fudging crazy.
Hmm.
And so who wants to deal with that? I don't want to hear loud noise. I just just want it to be peaceful. And again, that may not be your experience. I'm not, under no circumstances am I going to go and say, well, this is what you have to do because this is what I like. That's not it. However, they have been studies that lack of green space and unsafe neighborhoods, poor infrastructure, all of these things actually increase risk for deteriorating mental health, especially in younger populations, right? I know I personally I I think it's a big deal to push people to go out into nature every once in a while. I'm not telling you to go spend I'm not this is not like, hey man, go fucking be I don't fucking know, Bear Grylls and tame the wilderness here. That's not what I'm saying. But go on a 20-minute hike. Go do something that's near nature that you can hear the sounds that, I mean, dude, to me, there's nothing more peaceful than the sounds of running water. So I go down by the C&O Canal. I sit there and meditate a little bit and just enjoy the flowing sounds. But again, that's not everybody's thing. I get that.
Yeah.
However, spending time in nature, I don't care who you are, is good for you.
Yeah.
It genuinely has a positive effect on our psyche because they're pleasant sights all around. And this is why that safe space is so important because of those metacognitive aspects to it.
Yes.
And so why does that matter? Okay. Well, it kind of combines all the things that we've been talking about, this idea of presence and connection and being less reliant on technology, not eliminating it, because I don't think
Yeah.
that's, again, I don't think that's the
Possible.
answer, but being less reliant on those things, because again, I don't even know where my phone is. If I have got a screen in front of my face like this for many, many hours a day, this is my field of view. This is all I see. It's not good for your eyes. There have been studies that show that it's not good. You need to be able to view things far at a distance. One of the best things that you can do when you're working on a computer, take a break and go look at things off in the distance because it readjusts your eye. These are big deals. Um, and so if I feel safe and I feel I don't want to say supported because then we're getting into a different aspect of things. Really all I'm trying to focus on are those more metacognitive aspects of what safe actually does for our brain, because I don't know if it's common knowledge yet at this point in time, but I know it's a relatively recent idea. Your eyes are a part of your brain. It is
Yeah.
not, they are not separate beings. And so and we rely predominantly on visuals
Yeah.
to interact with the world around us. So it makes sense then that if our eyes are seeing things that are unpleasant, our mental health is going to deteriorate more and
Yeah.
more and more, especially when we are raising young children in comfort. They have never had to experience mental resistance in that matter. They're not listening to fucking loud noises all the time because they are in a safe space. In that safe space, you are able to actually take risks because you're not being bombarded with sensory information that is telling you you need to be careful with that. Because if you're not, something bad can happen. And these aren't conscious thoughts. It's not like
Yeah.
I look at this jagged ass fence that's sitting in our backyard and I'm thinking, damn, dude, I could fucking cut myself on the top of that shit, be nasty, gnarly. I'm just like, ooh, that thing's ugly and I don't like it.
Yeah.
And not actually thinking about the fact that this does require more processing going on inside of my brain. And then it allows us to go ahead and interact in a way that is positive and healthy. And if I'm seeing things that are visually appealing, I'm stopping and I'm being like, man, that is super cool. I've looked out my window that sits right here. God only knows how many times. This is the first time I've noticed the yellow tree out here, and it only recently just turned yellow. It's gorgeous because it's the only. There's no green. There's no other leaves that are conflicting with it. So I just look out and all I see are these spots of yellow in all of these trees. Super cool.
Hmm.
But again, that stopped me for at least a second or two to be able to process something different, to get out of that, oh my God, what's happening? But if I wasn't in a space that I found comfortable, engaging, and safe in that form, then I would overlook those trees in and of themselves because I'd
Yeah.
be too focused on, and not even consciously, like the flight or flight would just start rolling quickly because it is literally sending signals that this is not a safe place to be. You are
Yeah.
going to be in trouble. And so we have increased presence. We have increased prefrontal cortex activation. And then on top of that, we can actually interact with another being in those spaces and increase that communication
Yeah.
simply because we're not focused on all of the stresses of the day, all of the worries, all of the whatever. And that's why I was so adamant about go find those safe spaces for you, create them. Here's what I'm going to ask. Is it possible to exist inside of that space all the time?
No.
No. Okay. We're in agreement on that one.
Yeah.
So then, I guess in my mind, is that a problem?
To be not to be in that environment all the time. No.
Not to be in a safe environment all the time.
No, I don't think it's a problem, personally speaking. And the reason why is I think okay. So I wanted to make a caveat when you said because you had mentioned about children having safe space, and I think this is mostly you're talking about like mostly most not all, but like American children and Western children because there are still
Hmm.
because
When I say that specifically, yes.
yes, and so but then because when you were saying that, I was like, well, there's all these other people who don't necessarily have access to these quote unquote safe spaces. And so that's what, and I'm going to relate that to it. But I think you learn through those spaces because you learn how to navigate the world. Because if you are in quote unquote a safe situation, instant kicked in, whether you survive it or not is a different question, but you'll learn survival techniques that you can then apply to your life as a whole. So that's why I say no, being in a safe space all the time doesn't matter. Yes, maybe you'll be afforded the opportunity to have these great thinking techniques, but life itself, you are not always going to have access to that. So you also need,
See, and this is why I asked because I'm gonna say you're right and you're wrong.
okay, go ahead.
So I agree with you that we won't have access to safe spaces 100% of the time, right? It's not, again, you go to some of these government websites and they're made for your safety, but they're increasing my levels of frustration. And that's okay. B- if we think about it in terms of muscle, we have to be exposed to stress in order for us to grow.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have to have some sort of safe space to come back to in order to be able to process those spaces that are not, and in order to be able to learn what the difference is. Because if we don't know what the difference is, then just exist inside of unsafety. And there's that we it has been proven over and over and over again that that is not effective. That is not a good way of interacting with the world. This isn't new. This is pretty normal. And so that's okay. I have no problem with that. But then where I lost you and where I was really glad that you said about is, but we can't be like that all of the time. We can't be emotionally, mentally, and really what we're talking about is emotional and mental safety, right?
Yeah.
Is kind of, correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct. Yeah.
That is where I'm going to disagree. Because if I have those safe spaces and I know what it's like to feel safe, I am in control of my body, correct? I am in control of my brain. If I'm not, then that implies something completely and totally different that we can have at another time, I promise. So I can go back to those spaces and go back to those feelings at any moment in time. Case in point, I can't get into the exact specifics, but I can talk about this at a very, very high level. There is a place that I spend a high majority of my time that is highly, highly unsafe. It is toxic as all get out. It's unpleasant. And at the moment, I have no choice in the matter. Sure, okay, I have a choice. Life circumstances have made it that the only responsible and rational choice is to keep dealing with it. However, I can be scared and anxiety ridden and have a heart attack, or I can use the methods that I have learned through creating those safe spaces for myself and be okay in that environment despite the turmoil that is going on. There are a lot of successful people who grew up in tumultuous environments. I'm not going to say most, I'm not going to say all. I can only sit there and tell you, I know
There's
for a
yeah. For
fact
fact, there's been yeah.
there are people that have grown up in war-torn places and gone on to be highly successful. Again, using methods and using techniques learned from being able to have some sort of safe space to go to, and then taking those lessons to those spaces. I wholeheartedly believe that you need both. I'm not telling you to go seek out unsafe places. I'm not telling you to go to a war-torn country, go sit in the middle of it and be like, I'm here to find inner peace. Fuck that. That's crazy. That's a bad fucking idea. But you're going to encounter unsafe places, and it is up to us to not only to create our own safe spaces, but to also carry those lessons forward and into. I know even as a kid, was a big thing for me because I would go and I would find places in the house where I could go and be by myself and be left alone. It wasn't about growing up in a fucked up environment that whether it was or whether it wasn't, I'm too young to decide at that point. We're talking as early as 2, 3, and 4 years old. But I knew from that early of an age that I needed time to process and I needed time to just be with me. Again, like I said, I've been doing that for my entire life. So that's from as early as I can remember, 35 years ago. I have been attempting to create that space for myself because I
Mhm.
wasn't getting it out in the world just because people are not my safe space. And that's okay. Large groups of people, I need a place to process. People have always been confusing for me, because I never understood their motivations, bleh. So I needed a place to go and process those things, right?
Sorry. Um,
No, no,
you,
please.
the conversation has changed slightly, but to go back to answer your first, the question before the rest of the you had said yes that we need those safe spaces, like that we can technically achieve those all the time, but
Mhm.
aren't you working under the assumption that those safe spaces will be the exact same? What if they change?
I'm definitely not working under that assumption. Number two, I'm not talking about the safe space staying the same because spaces change. It is a guaranteed inevitability. My safe space at 2, 3, 4 years old was a crawl space in a closet that I could go and watch the traffic go by and count the number of cars so I could calm down and find peace, right? My safe space today is a greenhouse that I go into and take care of plants and make beautiful and determine how I could make it more efficient, effective, the things that I love doing, problem solving, conversation, taking care of things. That has evolved over time and that will always continue to evolve over time. But those lessons that I learn in those spaces are what I take out and carry into those unsafe spaces. Does this make sense?
No, it makes sense. My thing is, I think those okay, I think maybe we have different, we're saying, because when you're talking, what you're saying, I 100% agree with, but
Hmm.
I think those are reflective and within yourself. When I think of a space, I think there are other people involved in that space. Personally, how I view it. So
Right.
I
Okay.
think, so I'm agreeing. So it's that thing of where I am agreeing with what you say, but I'm viewing it as more of a reflective and an internal personal space, a space that you retreat to when you need to, quote unquote, feel safe. And then when I think of safe, like when I think of a safe space, maybe it's the terminology that we need to maybe work on. I think there are others involved in said space. So that's why I think we're having that disconnect. Because it's like I'm
Or
agreeing
can
with what
be.
you're saying, but then I'm
Right.
like, something is not sounding right to me because of maybe the overarching thing it's under, but I'm like, because I'm viewing what you're saying as more of a reflective and a personal assessment rather than because everything because all the example at least you've given personally, those are your by yourself and doing
Hmm.
some kind of reflective analysis within yourself.
Not always, though. So, again, here's what I'll say. For me, reflection is a safe space. It's a space that I like to go to because it's a place that I learn about me. That's how I've been again since I was a kid. I'm not telling you that your safe space has to be my safe space. That's not what I'm saying. It can certainly be around other people. You can feel safe with other people. I don't always do that because, again, it's whatever, like, I mean, just to give you an idea, okay? I was dropped down the stairs at 13 months old. So, what do you think that tells my brain? We laugh, like, yeah, it's funny, but it's also horrifically
Horrifically
fucked up.
traumatic, yes.
And so, do you think I'm going to
No,
be like,
to
oh,
be
yeah, let
honest,
me
the
just,
reason I'm laughing is you look behind you to see nobody else
oh,
around
yeah, yeah.
blinking
I was
before the
like, how
timeline.
many
That's why I
people
was
are
laughing.
listening to
I
me?
was
You
not
know what I
laughing that
mean?
you were dropped. I was laughing at you were like, is anybody gonna be able to
Yeah,
hear
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it is what it is. What you know, like I said, I'm still sitting here, a person with trauma, right? Like, I'm trying to tell you, this is not like a I've just done a shit ton of work to where it affects me a whole lot less than it used to. um, and so that's why, like, for me, people are not always going to be around in that center. But that is directly related to spaces and experiences with which I grew up in. And so, again, your safe space is going to be different than my safe space. Your
Right.
safe space could be with a few close friends hanging out, or it could be, and we talked about this, I guess, the other week too, because I talked about sports teams could be your safe space. You're not necessarily communicating, but you guys are sharing a connection. You are sharing some sort of bond. It is increasing that presence. It is helping you to gain a sense of peace and security that is not directly hardwired to, oh no, what am I going to do? Am I in danger? What's happening right now?
Hmm.
So yes, I'm describing to you my safe space, which is more reflective. It is more solitary. It does not have to be solitary. It can be with somebody who I do trust, but it also allows me to explore problem solving opportunities that I like. It allows me to pursue design opportunities that I like, because design for me is a big deal. I'm huge on design. I hate bad design. No. Um, so those are just things that I enjoy and I appreciate. And knowing that I enjoy and I appreciate those things, I'm going to go and integrate those more and more and more into my life. With that specific space that I'm not super thrilled about, I can bring design and good design into that space in order to help me deal with those things. I can get a neat sculpture that I designed and stick it in places to remind me, oh, this is where I am, or this is where my little space is. I just need to remember and bring my body back to that space so that I'm not stuck in hardwired. And it's easier to do that in a digital space. Why? Because we can replicate things so easily. It's not it's not a matter of, oh, I have to spend time creating this. What's it called? I think it was, I want to say it was Meta that just released uh, forget what the hell it's called. But what it does is it takes 2D objects and turns them into three-dimensional ones right there
Yeah.
in real time. It's a cool tool, and it's going to be super useful when, especially when the phone starts to be out, or when the computer starts to be out here rather than right here. And so this is why I think spaces are super duper important, right? But B, I think there's always going to be some level of reflection involved, because you're going to have to reflect at least this much to know that that's the space that you enjoy.
Hmm.
But it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement that that space be reflective.
Yeah.
Reflection is probably going to be a requirement to you living the life that you want to live, just because, again, you have to know what you like in order to be able to pursue it. But it does not have to be the dominant force behind that space. Now, I want to get back to my comment before, because I think that this is now the appropriate time. I have spent a lot of time talking about giving examples, at least of my safe spaces, of things like that, right? But when you have at any point in time, have you heard me say, I need to have somebody else make sure that the space is safe for me?
No.
No. Why? Because it doesn't work. You might find the most empathetic human being in the world. They can be super nice, super kind. Due to simple miscommunication, they could misunderstand something. It doesn't work because the miscommunication. They might not fully understand what
So.
I'm looking for and not be capable of providing that sort of a safe space. Should people be human enough to try and make spaces that aren't toxic and whatever else? Yeah, sure. But are human beings humans, and are they going to make mistakes?
Hmm.
Yeah, of course. So sitting there and yelling at somebody going, "You need to make spaces safer," is bullshit. It is. I'm sorry, I, but not really. Like, I get the fuck over it. I know that sounds fucked up. I get it. But other people are not the source of your happiness.
100% agree. Yeah.
And they're not, yeah, you might feel comfortable with people around, but you're still responsible at the end of the day to
Hmm.
go out and find those people. You can't just be like, you turn into the person that I want. That's crazy.
That is.
And you see, does it make sense now why I didn't want to answer that first? Because it just doesn't, the whole idea of a safe space implies that you're doing the work to determine what it is that you like in the first place. You have to know. Just to give you an idea, I can't tell you a single thing that my kid hasn't done because I signed him up for anything and everything when he was young, and just to try and find out what he liked. It was one of the first things that we did, because if he likes it, he's going to be that much more willing to pursue it. And if he has something that he likes, then that's going to be able to translate out into other things.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have to go to school. I don't like this, but I know that if I go to school, then I can go and I can do X. I'm just going to throw it out there, right? Let's say architectural design. Right? Loves designing whatever. Is that the case? No, I don't know yet. We're not there. That's okay. That's not a big deal. But in that sense, and to that end, if he knows this is what I need to do, it's 10 million times easier to go out and do things that we don't like and that we don't want to do, because we know it's going to ultimately get us to where it is that we want to get to. And so then we don't view it again. And then this is, I think, our entire, what we've been talking about for 2 seasons is how the frameworks that
Yeah.
carry us through. We're not talking about you feeling better. We're not talking about you being more emotionally available. We're not talking about any of that shit. Not because it's a bad thing. I'm not telling you that any of those things are terrible. But number one, somebody has talked extensively about it, and so there's no need to keep beating a dead horse. Number two, if we talk about the frameworks that bring us peace and that literally teach us how to take action in order to get there, then the mental health is a byproduct no matter what, because we're not dealing with these more meta challenges of how do I just wire my brain for more positivity. Come on, man. That might sell pretty well. I
Yeah.
might be able to like throw that in a title somewhere and be like, rewire your brain to be positive. Yeah. But what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Maybe if you're lucky and it's a surface level trauma, you can use some CBT techniques to get beyond. But if you're not, if it's a deep seated fucking layer, CBT is not gonna,
Oh,
it's not gonna be enough. And that's not knocking CBT. I think CBT is wonderful, but there's a limit even to CBT. There's a limit to psychotherapy. All of these things are important at different layers. And so this is why each and every week we come back and we talk about frameworks. How is it that we update our schemas, our mental models, to be able to address life in a healthy, positive manner and get the life that we want? And I'm not telling you that the life that we want is $1 billion with a hillside man. That's not what I'm saying. I don't give a shit what you want. I know that sounds
yeah.
so fucked up, but what you want could be fucking acting in a circus as a clown, and that's your who knows? Yeah, see, I mean, but that's okay. If that's really where it is that your happy place is, and you're like, yes, this brings my life purpose and I feel good doing it, then fuck you, Carlos, for laughing. Who gives a shit? I'm gonna laugh too, and fuck me for laughing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes, it might be more non-traditional. Yes, it might be a little goofy, but that's not what this is about. This is about us. This is about us having the ability and the capabilities to go out and find and perform the tasks that we need in order to be happy, healthy, dare I say, productive members of society. Have I turned you yet or not? He's like, nah, I still think you full of shit.
No, but I see a point clearer. It's
That's
that thing.
okay.
It's that thing of I see you, I understand you. I'm 100% behind you because I support you. Do I see it the way you do? Heck no.
That's okay. That's all right. But it's not, the way you say that makes it sound like we are completely divergent.
Oh no,
I
no.
don't think we're
I don't,
completely divergent at
no, I
all.
think I think we're very like I think there's an event diagram like the circles are overlapping with just slightly things
Yeah,
on the side. So no, I
right. And
it's that thing I agree. Like when you're speaking, I'm like everything he's saying makes sense, but why am I not like being like yes, an enthusiastic yes? That's literally what this conversation has been. It's like I see it. I probably would have worded things like the exact same way, but it's just think there's maybe it's a terminology thing, or maybe
mhm.
there's something specific just that's making that. I think it's like we're 90% on the same page with percent divergence, and I think it just might come to other personal experience or how we interpret or view specific words or things.
Okay. Yeah, and I can totally get behind that. And here's what I'm gonna throw out there, because I am all about practicing what I preach and throwing it out there. And I'm even more about it when I tell you to practice what I preach. But yeah. Um what I what I think is going to be super cool is just taking some time to reflect on all of
Yeah,
that and figuring out exactly where it is that we disagree, so that we can come back and we can have that discussion and we can try and define that, because I may be wrong. I'm not going to be sitting here telling you everything that comes out of my mouth is gospel and you must take it as such.
he's not. I am saying everything I say is gospel. Listen to me. Don't listen. Don't listen to me. I'm the last person you should listen to.
Right.
Peace.
And so, but I mean, I do think that that'll be a fantastic conversation when we get to have it, because
Yes.
I'm perfectly open to interpretation. And
Oh,
I
same.
yeah.
No, I think I like this because I think typically we agree, or by the end of the conversation, we see each other's like point of view and then like we do cool. But I think this is very special that somehow we are agreeing on everything, but somehow well, at least specifically for me,
Right,
there's
right.
a disconnect somewhere that maybe who knows, maybe if I do the work, I might end up in the same place as you do, or maybe even diverge further. So I think
Uh-huh.
that's why this conversation is information like these are very important because you end up agreeing, you do the research, and you might be like, you know what, maybe I was wrong, maybe I was seeing things this way, and then you end up agreeing with whatever your opponent, but not opponent, but
Right, right. The other person,
the
yeah,
other
I
person
got
is
you.
saying, or you
Yeah.
go, you know what, they're stupid, and they're actually more wrong than than I thought.
And I'm a-okay with accepting that and willing to talk about it with you. Always. I think that's super. I we say, we just to bring this back to your previous comment, you mentioned that most of my places were more reflective. This is just as much of a safe place for me as it is anywhere else, because I get to have these kinds of conversations, and it's okay to have these disagreements and not sit here and be like, well, fuck Carlos, that asshole didn't agree with me. I don't give a shit, dude. Like I said, I'm genuinely excited for when you figure it out so that we can take it even
Exactly.
further, because I haven't seen a lot of conversations on topics like this.
Yeah.
This idea of, I mean, I chalked it up to spatial influence and what that kind of, just because there is a lot of spatial influence on our mental and physical well-being. And so the getting to like update that framework is fucking exciting. So I look forward to our next conversation about
Me
this.
too.
So I think there's a few, we have a few takeaways for today.
Yeah.
We have this idea of spatial influence and this idea that the influence that the surroundings have on us is very, very important. And that it is highly important for us to have positive spatial influence for us. And maybe that's the terminology that we're looking for rather than safe space. Maybe we're really looking at positive spatial influence. Maybe I will, like I said, reflect, and we'll definitely come back to that because I think that's, and maybe that's, I'll put that in our thing for next week. Think about this topic of positive spatial influence. Yeah. But understanding that we have to have some sort of positive spatial influence somewhere in our existence in order to learn those healthy habits to go and take into moments of unhealthy spatial influence, because those are going to arise because the world changes, people are human, and that's how we must live. Finding that is on you, it's on me, it's on us, because it's our happiness. We must know ourselves enough in order to be able to identify, this is my safe place. My safe place is on a football field, kicking a soccer, I said football, but I mean soccer, kicking a ball up the field and sharing that experience with 20 other people or whatever. That's okay for that to be a safe space. It's also okay for that safe space to be secluded in the middle of the woods with nobody else around, meditating for 4 hours. I personally, that's not going to be me, but that is a place that you can go to. It can also be in the middle of some massive online RPG game that you're playing, that you find your safe space. I don't have the manual for your safe space, but I can tell you that if you reflect and you take that responsibility and you actively go seek it, you will find it. Because you'll start taking action to go and do those things. And so coming back to this idea of taking agency, and we, understanding that this safe space applies not just to our physical world, but to digital spaces as well. I know we didn't talk so much about the digital spaces, but that's okay. That doesn't mean that they're not included. These lessons apply to digital as much as they do physical. And then those lessons that we learn inside of those, that increase of presence, that increase of connection, communication, all of these things, then can in turn be taken into other areas of our life so that we can live, I don't want to say better, but thanks for listening, everybody. Carlos and I greatly appreciate it. Comment something that resonated with you today. We are here for support, feedback, or anything else that you want to share. Join us on the Kindred app, a perfect space to keep unpacking what came up during the episode. Get live, peer-to-peer support from people with shared experiences. Kindred is built for those moments that no one else sees.
Take this one step deeper by reviewing today's reflection prompt in the show notes. Please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and tune in next week for a new episode. Until next time, choose joy.